A salary is the drug they give you when they want you to forget about your dreams.
Welcome to the Corporate Dropout Podcast. I'm your host, Alacia Citro. After a successful career in tech, suffering from burnout, stress, and anxiety, I walked away from a multiple six-figure career to chase my passions and purpose as a coach and entrepreneur. This show is going to inspire, equip, and empower you to do the same. Let's get it. Hello, friends. Welcome to the Corporate Dropout Podcast. Today, I'm interviewing Harley Jordan, content creator and social media strategist. If you've been wanting to learn how to do TikTok or Instagram Reels for your business, Harley is your girl. She went from 1,000 followers a year ago to over 30,000 today with over 8 million views on Reels. She's now a private social media coach and runs a course teaching others how to go viral and brand themselves. And she leveraged her sought-after social media skills to successfully leave the corporate world and live life on her own terms. Harley, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, hyping me up here.
Hey, it's all deserved. So before we start the interview, I think the story of how we met is pretty awesome and worth sharing first. So I met Harley because I was challenged by prior guests, Sandy and Wade Critides, to make a reel a day in June. And my friend Annie found out I was doing this and says, you need to follow Harley Jordan. She has the best Reels tutorials. So I go on Harley's Instagram. I learned how to do this seeing double reel where I show up twice in the shot. And I'm all about giving credit where it's due. So I tag Harley in it when people are asking how I did this. And I'm like, you don't need to hear it from me. Harley already showed you. Like, go to her profile, go follow her and learn. So you end up sharing it on your story after seeing the tags. It hits 13,000 views in no time, which for me at the time was a lot. You and I start DMing, and fast forward, now you are my social media coach. You're staying at my house in Maui on your honeymoon, and we're basically best friends.
Absolutely best friends. It actually blows my mind how small the Instagram space is. Like, we act like, okay, 1 billion users, like there's so many people in the world. But when you're stuck in a hole in the algorithm, you just connect with like-minded people. And it blows my mind every day how connected community can be.
Oh, totally. Yeah. It's my favorite part of the internet, I would say for sure, is making internet friends like you.
I think at this point, I have more internet friends than I have real life friends. My fiance always makes fun of me. He's like, do you really know that person? I'm like, yeah, we text every day. What are you talking about?
It's crazy, right? I know most of the people that I talk to on a daily basis, I have not met in real life either. It's kind of wild.
Yeah, never.
So funny. Well, okay, so let's start with your background. So I want to know all about pre-influencer Harley. So your Instagram bio says you are a science major turned full-time creator. So tell us about that. And what was your career plan as a science major? Because that's quite a shift.
Wild, right? So I actually wanted to work in an exercise physiology lab. I got my degree in exercise science. I minored in biochem. I had taken all of the classes required to go get my master's in exercise physiology and work in a lab. I was all about it. But I'm someone who, if I'm going to jump, I go full in. So I was taking like 22 units per semester. I was doing the thing to get there, burning myself out. And eventually I remember taking a walk. It was like 2 weeks before school ended, or 2 weeks before I had to start applying to grad schools. And my fiance was like, you just can't do this. Like, you can't jump into grad school right now. And you don't need to. If you went right now, you'd burn yourself out. You can't do this. So I jumped into the workforce. I got promoted at the job I was at that time. I was working at a celebrity training facility nearby my college. And I got promoted in business operations and learned fairly quickly that making the body more efficient and making a business more efficient were very similar skill sets. So I worked at a startup for a while where I learned the ins and outs of, I said it was a celebrity training facility. Like, we had some very quick growth going around and I had my hands in everything. Like, I think I made the manual for this 200 employee company, and then eventually decided I wanted to start in corporate. So I kind of jumped in with both feet again and decided, let me learn the by the book method of business world. So I have content creation, nowhere in my background.
Which just goes to show, I have a theory that most of what you learn in school doesn't actually apply to what you end up making your income from when you get into the job force and you find what you really like, and you are further enforcing that theory.
Yeah, we were talking about this a little bit earlier, but it's those hard skills versus soft skills. It's really just, I mean, it's the same skill set, but I'm never going to talk about RER, your metabolic rate of who knows what anymore. Never.
Or out of curiosity, when you went into the corporate side of things, were you ever planning to go back to grad school? Was this kind of intended as like a gap year, for lack of a better term, to like recalibrate, refresh, and then go back?
It really was. It really was. I went back in thinking that I was just going to jump right back out. I was going to learn what I needed to know about business, every single person along the way that I had interned for or taken, whatever kind of more like internship type of opportunities with, had said, get business skills, like take a business class, do something business along the way. It'll help you. You need it. I know you're thinking science, but you need to do something business related. Mm-hmm. So I think that was part of my push to gain some kind of real life knowledge about like the inner workings of an actual business corporation, anything like that.
I think that's really, really sound advice. If you can understand the operations and like the mechanics behind a business, you can really apply it to pretty much anything. Like you said, right?
Even if I was working in a lab, there would still be business related things going on. I would still need that knowledge would help me no matter what level I was in.
So fast forward to when you quote unquote drop out of the corporate world. I learned this detail earlier when we chatted that it was not your choice. Can you?
Oh, absolutely not. I was COVID laid off at that point. I was working in operations at a like luxury river cruise line, and we're in the travel industry. So when COVID hit, the whole operation was shut down. And with river cruising too, you're going to have an older population. That's their key demographic. So 65 and over headed to Europe. You better believe the whole operation was done for months and months and months. So my whole department was eventually laid off. And I had no idea what to do. As someone that was kind of, a mid-tier employee at that point, I couldn't go back to a starting entry-level job. I was getting turned down by all of these entry-level jobs, no matter the business experience, no matter the years of employment, the managerial experience. And then I couldn't go to like a C-suite level something because I didn't have enough experience for that either. So I was in this weird position. I was really stressed about it. And I decided, you know what? I'm going to start a blog. I'm going to learn about, I'm going to write about health and wellness. I'm going to take it back to my roots of exercise science. And maybe I can chat about travel. I can chat about everything that lights me up. And I didn't have a name for it, which is the most important part at that point. So,
also the hardest part sometimes.
I know, because you feel like it's connected to you on an existential level. So I decided I'm going to lean into my Instagram. I'm going to grow my personal account. I'm going to learn how to speak to an audience and what an audience actually wants from me while I'm trying to figure out this name and branding that I want to lean on.
Oh, so that's interesting. So you sort of used Instagram as the test of figuring out what your market wanted and then pivoting from there versus just being like dead set on it and maybe not giving them what they wanted.
So I had no idea what I wanted to do on Instagram. I had no idea how to run an Instagram, but when you're starting anything, you have to jump in with both feet. I keep saying this, but you really do. You can't falter around if it's going to be monetized completely. You have to say when this is fully monetized. So I jumped in like that, and I was kind of reflecting and learning along the way and taking in all of that information, that data, and it just took me in a very different direction than I ever would have expected.
It's crazy to me seeing how you show up on social media today that a little over a year ago, you didn't really know what you were doing. That is wild. And I think it kind of speaks to the power of the internet again. I mean, making friends is one thing, but also just how quickly you can attain knowledge and become an expert in something.
It's pretty funny because anytime I talk about my story, I get these almost double takes from people that have been following me for a shorter amount of time, where they're like, okay, wait, hold up. You started this a year ago? You have 30,000 followers and you're this persona from a year? I'm like, yep, anyone can do it. It just goes to show, really, anyone can do it.
Yeah, amazing. And I also think too, a lot of people sometimes don't pursue stuff like this because they pigeonhole themselves. They'll say something like, well, who am I to, create content? I don't know anything. I'm a science major. I'm not, creative. Like, people find reasons to discount their abilities. Do you agree with that?
I hear that every day. I hear that especially from the mommy blogger world, which is really unfortunate, where I have these people that want to jump into Instagram, want to monetize their social media. And they're like, well, I just don't have any other skills. I don't know what I can teach. And I'm like, mom world isn't your whole life. It's part of your personality. It's part of your family. Like, that's great. But you're telling me you don't have other passions and skills? I bet you do. And then we go into this conversation of what those really are. And there's always something that is standing right in front of them, right in front of their freaking face, that is not obvious to them.
We were talking about this earlier on my coaching call, how people are always blind to their own genius. So you're so right. People always discount the things that they're really, really good at. So let's come back to the monetizing Instagram piece. So one of my favorite reels that you did was one where you talk about all the crap you put up with at your last job and how it basically kind of was a blessing to leave, right? And at the end of this reel, you drop the mic and you say that you doubled your income making reels in your kitchen. So,
whoops, hair flip.
So tell us about that. Tell us about your business today and how you were able to double your annual income by literally filming video in your kitchen.
Literally filming video in my kitchen. It blows my mind that the whole Instagram journey just blows my mind. But I started in multiple situations where I was told over and over, day in and day out, you don't have the business acumen. You don't know enough about this. You're too young. You're too whatever. In this training facility, I threw around my max squat all the time to gain any kind of solidarity, relatability, credibility with my male peers. That's terrible. That's trash. So even if I had all of this business knowledge inside my head, I had to put out my physical strength. And I'm a 5'2" small blonde female. So this whole thing is just laughable. So I was having all of this negativity thrown at me. And I had a lot of self-doubt about what I was doing. I wanted to go into consulting. That was really where I wanted to be. But because I kept being told over and over and over again that I didn't have it, I thought, okay, well, I'm not old enough. I can't do this quite yet. And that it was so not true. So once I was forced into it by COVID layoffs, you have to run. I really keep saying this. You have to run. So I jumped into collabs. I jumped into partnering with brands to make any kind of income. I jumped into creating content that I would pass along and get paid basically per photo instead of per posting on my account. And with that alone, I was making pretty much my income at 12,000 followers, my income within those businesses. So 12,000 I hit probably around November of last year. I started in May.
Wow.
And then
6 months.
And then a reel went viral in February where I was teaching my audience how to do a transition, like an outfit change transition. Start in one outfit, all those reels, like magician magic tricks, end in another. And it hit 1.5 million. I brought in 2,000 followers that weekend and it clicked. I was like, okay, yep, got it. That's where I'm going. That's where I'm running with. And did I ever think that I would be the transition girl? Absolutely not. But I now put out one transition tutorial every single week because I know that's what hits. So you just have to be smart about it. It's analytics. You're tracking the data. You're not, pulling a straw out of a hay pile.
Right.
So I doubled my income. I was getting a bunch of questions about, okay, how have you done this? I'm curious. Like, I want to be doing this too, but I wasn't really outwardly posting about it. And I think it was because of imposter syndrome. I was like, I haven't done this for that long. Like, I'm unsure. But in February, I started to get a mass amount of interest. So I ran with it. I hired a business manager. I started setting up one-on-one calls, like online booking, where I didn't even have to talk to anyone, thank goodness, because automated is a savior.
Yes.
And I've just kind of run from there. I had all of this like branding experience, client services experience. Like I said, I was writing the manual at 22 years old, and it all related. So then I started talking to these businesses, and I was really, before I even went viral, I was also pitching myself to the brands that I was working with, any kind of small business that came with me or that partnered with me. I was then handing off content and going back and saying, hey, so if you need help with your social media, let's chat. Like, let's figure out who your ideal audience is, how I can help you, da, 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 da. So I was gaining some of that, I guess, foundational experience along the way so that when my time came, it just exploded. And at this point, I put out a guide. I'm working with one-on-one clients. I have a couple courses that I'm in the midst of running as well as launching soon.
Yep. One launching. What was the date you said? That's right.
October. I don't have a specific date yet.
But coming soon.
I will run a Reels course starting in October.
This is so needed too. I mean, as someone who is in the social selling network marketing space, in addition to my other entrepreneurial ventures, this is so needed. People don't have any idea how to do these. They feel so intimidated by Reels. So you're putting out something that I think is incredibly in demand, especially, since Sandy and Wade challenged me to do this 2 months ago. My following went from, I think I had like 1,800 people to now coming up on 2,900 in about a month and a half. It takes one viral reel, but getting to that point, consistency. Yeah. And I think, just getting over that imposter syndrome and fear of like, well, who am I to be doing this? Which actually, this leads me into another question that I had for you. You had a reel I really resonated with that was talking about basically kind of stopping yourself from doing this because you don't want people to think, oh, I'm trying to be an influencer. You had a whole thing about this. So I'd love to hear from you. Like, how did you get over the imposter syndrome? How did you get past the fear of showing up on social? And what would you tell other people that are needing to get out of their own way?
Are you ready for a ridiculous story? So
always.
I remember every day. So
every day.
I remember the first time that I put hashtags on a post. And to me, you're laughing because you know the fear that comes with that. It's people thinking that you're trying to do something. So you don't want them to laugh at whatever you're trying to do. The influencer has such a stigma behind it. So I remember putting hashtags on my post for the first time. And I literally did this. I woke up at 3 a.m. for some strange reason. And I was like, I can't sleep. I'm going to put hashtags on all my posts. Then I'm going to delete them in the morning. So no one can see this. I don't know if that did anything. Like, I'm pretty sure actually, I know hashtags only work if you put them on immediately after. Okay.
I didn't know that. That's good to know.
There is so much fear in having people think that you are trying to be this like celebrity influencer, think you're cool enough. And it's so unfortunate because this is a female dominated industry. If you were a man, you'd be called an entrepreneur. This would be called a business. And instead, I'm a female, so I'm laughed at because it's just taking pictures and trying to be an influencer. I don't like it.
I'm glad that you said that, because that was the part of the caption that really hit me hardest. You're completely right. Yeah. And I think, it's just another way that women need to get out of their own way and stop caring what people think, because the opinions of other people don't pay the bills. And I will probably say this in some level in every episode, that no one is ever going to criticize you that's doing more than you. Only people who are doing less than you will criticize or judge.
Absolutely. And I remember the day that a couple girls from my high school unfollowed me. And instead of it being like, and mind you, I haven't talked to these girls in years. They were awful. I'm so glad they're gone. But at that moment, I was like, weight off my shoulders. I don't want you to see my stuff. I don't want to see your stuff. Like, I'm so glad that I get to unfollow. So you have some of that. They'll unfollow, and great, good riddance. I don't want you here. Or two, those people will end up in your inbox and say, oh my goodness gracious, like, I cannot believe that you are doing this. This is so cool. And to me, both of those things are positive. I don't want to be surrounded by negative energy, and it just brings out the positive.
I completely agree. And that was something early on in my social selling business I had to contend with. I really had to get over my head trash about what people would think about me, being part of a multi-level marketing company. And, talk about words with negative stigma. MLM is one of them, right? Or MLM and influencer. And like, that'll send most people running for the hills. But it's like, you know what? At the end of the day, like, I'm sharing something I love. I'm sharing something that's changed my life. How is it any different from people posting about a product that they like, that they don't have any skin in the game for, in terms of getting money back? Like, just because
I get paid for it.
Monetizing it. Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. I think getting over that hump, though, is something that most people really struggle with as they begin to monetize how they're showing up socially. So how did you reframe this whole influencer piece into something that you're now proud of? Like, what was the turning point for you?
I don't know if I've gotten to that point, to be honest. It's still strange. I was in a bar for a bachelorette party recently, and some random guy asked me what I did, and why this even mattered, why I even remember this is just out of this world. But he asked me what I did, and I cringed and said, I'm an influencer. And number one, I have a consultant title to lean on. Why I even went to the influencer path, I have no clue. But he had so many questions about this. My parents don't even quite understand. They have a bunch of questions. My parents, almost in law, don't understand. They have so many questions. And I think it's just this confusion around what you really do, more so than embarrassment about the industry. So I think as we move forward, we just have to talk about it more. And that's kind of why my stuff has done so well on Instagram, because I've started to get really transparent. I'm a natural sharer. So I talk about, okay, this collab is going to cost this much. You need to charge this much. Here's how I set my rates. Here's how I reach out to brands. Here's how I do X, Y, and Z. You can do this too. And I can tell you exactly how I do it. There are so many people who are very cloak and dagger. I remember a friend in my DMs who had reached out to me about a question regarding partnerships. And I answered it very quickly. I told her exactly what to do, down to the tiniest detail. And she stopped me and she goes, I just asked this person and they said, I don't share that. I can't share that information.
Interesting. Very scarcity type of mindset with that.
There's enough room for everyone here.
100%.
The internet's a big place. There's no competition.
By the way, I don't know if you're doing a course on the partnership and collaboration piece, but if not, we just identified another area of your expertise, genius, that you can totally monetize. Just FYI, like, I would pay for that. I don't have a clue. I actually did want to ask you that, and I probably am not at the point of doing collaborations or anything like that either. But how do you go about finding the brands that you want to partner with, and like, what are red flags to be aware of?
Ooh, let's start out with that. Okay, red flags. Anyone that slides into your DMs and says, please reach out to this other account. If there's a third party in your DMs, red flag. If they ask you to pay anything, any dime, like shipping, I don't care. Red flag. What else? If they tell you you'll be reimbursed through PayPal, another red flag. And generally, for me, if it feels like fast fashion, really cheap products, like any of the like Amazon sellers that end up in your DMs, you're nodding your head because I know you know those. I block those immediately. That is not a good opportunity. They are like, that's cheap product. You really can't. Can you tell me that you'd ever recommend a product that cheap to anyone? Because I can't.
No.
Yeah, I don't want that. So finding the brands that you really like is the first thing. And I think that's part of why influencer marketing gets such a bad rep, because we're just pushing these products to get free products.
And that maybe don't align with your brand and your values either, right?
Right.
So I have to really commend you. The fact that you more or less had the ships burned, whether you wanted them to be or not, when you get laid off in COVID, right? You need to replace the income, but you still were very particular about who you were going to partner with. You weren't just going to take money from anyone to rep their product. It had to align with you. And I think that's super important.
And when it comes down to it, we all notice salesy behavior the second it comes out. I'm sure you preach that with social selling. It's hard. You can't outwardly sell. Think of influencer marketing. What it is really obvious right now. Where it needs to become is mini Super Bowl commercial, where you're entertained, you're engaged with it. You're not shoving the product down people's faces. And if it pushes more that direction, I think the reason that ship will sail that direction is because we've learned that we need to stand behind our ethos. So when I look for brands to work with, there's a little bit of outreach involved, or there's a little bit of incoming traction. Like I get emails in my inbox about various like supplements, food products, a lot of supplement stuff, because that's where margins are really high. Like food products cost cents on the dollar, but because they charge, $3.50 per product, they're making an arm and a leg from each individual product. So I know at that point that there's a lot of money to go into marketing for these products.
That is a really good point.
Yeah, so it's fairly strategic about the industry itself, but sometimes they'll come in and I'm like, okay, now, wow, I've never tried this company, don't even recognize the name. And at that point, they'll like send me a product to trial and we can kind of go from there, whether that is actually like we'll end in a partnership, or if it's just going to be a trial basis, I'll say, oh, I hate this, sorry. And then we'll move on. And I have done that one. Or I will reach out to them.
Honest.
You have to. Or I'll reach out to them. And the way that I do that is I go to a brand that I really like. Think about your non-negotiables or the things that you've tried that, to be honest, you don't really want to pay for again. Like you still love them, but you can't invest the dollar into them. Like nice hair care, that kind of thing. I would go to their company and drop down into their like suggested followers and kind of wormhole my way through there. Find those products that catch your eye, that are very similar, have a similar market, are probably very similar in their ingredients, their look, their feel, their everything.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Reach out, send them an email, treat it like a business transaction.
And let me ask you, what do you think is sort of, to the person listening to this that is trying to find additional income streams, but doesn't have a massive following? I mean, in your opinion, when can you start to monetize your Instagram if that's something that you want to do?
I started at 3,000 followers.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So it's a lot sooner than you think. Generally, the rate that I recommend for a static post for promotion is 5% of your follower count. So at 3,000, it's about 150 is your starting rate for a feed post. And once your followers go up, that percentage kind of decreases. And And there's different rates for reels, for stories, that kind of thing. But it all comes back to really the amount of time you're putting in. Do you have high level equipment? Are you going somewhere particular to film this content? Yeah, if I'm going to the beach, I'm not going to charge, 1 hour of my time. It's going to be a whole trip's worth of money to get specialty content.
Right. Yeah, this is definitely your next course if you haven't. Like, people would pay for this information, including myself. We haven't talked much about TikTok.
Ooh, secretly, that's where I'm going, but it's not ready yet.
Okay. Well, we'll have to keep posted with that when people follow you. At the end, you can tell everyone where to find you so they can keep tabs. We haven't talked about TikTok too much. We're going to do that more in the mini episode that will drop tomorrow after this one does. But what would you say in terms of monetizing TikTok? Like how many followers do you need on there until you can start monetizing? Any opinion on that?
So TikTok's a little bit different. And I say that because you can have 10,000 followers on TikTok and get 300 views on a video. It's so much more casual. It's like you're filming a story versus a feed post. So it really depends on the consistency of how frequently you're popping off, how frequently your videos are going viral. So what you can kind of do, I don't have a specific ratio for TikTok, but what you can kind of do is take the average of your views of what you're getting and find where you're generally sitting and market that number to brands. The even better thing to do is to utilize both platforms, because if I can now offer this package of, look, I can promote you on TikTok, I can promote you on Instagram via post, reel, and story, and I can pass along all the content that I'm making. I can give you rights to use those images in your ads for the next 6 months, which also costs money. If you're going to slap my face on a billboard, I better be getting paid for that. And now you have this whole bundle. So if I have 3,000 followers, I just gave you a ton of content. And that's not going to be free. I'm going to charge for my time. Yeah. So there's so many ways to play into the game and make more money from it.
You reminded me of another reel you did that I quite literally laughed out loud at about it costs that much because it takes me
hours.
I'm trying to limit how many F-bombs I drop. I'm going to be really strategic with it, but you guys should have
this conversation every week. We have this conversation every week. How
I'm trying to keep it more clean on the
just
pod.
F-bombs.
Well, all the best audio has the effort in it. I can't help it. I don't seek it out. It just finds me. I'm trying to keep it more clean on the pod for now. I'm sure as we get more comfortable, we'll do a little bit more of that. But anyway, yeah, everyone needs to go see that reel that you posted. Know your worth. Another thing we were talking about today. All right. So rapid fire. So let me ask you, what has been your biggest challenge as an entrepreneur?
Taking on too much. Oh my goodness. Like I said, 22 credits was my jam. So when I first started, I was like, I need to do everything. I can do more all the time. More is not better. More is not better. You can outsource. You will be more efficient if you outsource. It's worth the money. Just do it.
Follow up to that. Do you also find you're more creative when you're outsourcing and you're not bogged down in the details and the stuff you don't particularly like?
You know the answer to that.
I know.
The answer is yes. Absolutely. If I'm running around between meetings, I have 6 meetings a day, and now I have to create at the end of the day. Not only am I drained mentally, but I'm not going to be able to give off that like hype girl energy that an audience wants to see. You have to show up enthusiastically. So I need to be able to hand off the busy work, the stuff that brings me down, to be able to lean into the creative energy.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. Respecting capacity, I think, is something, especially listeners of this show are going to struggle with, because it's going to be, based on the people that are following now, it's a lot of overachieving females. So I think we all needed to hear that. So what has been the best part of being an entrepreneur?
Doing only things that light you up. I started this blog, or I wanted to start this blog, because I wanted to talk about all of the things that I used as an escape for my corporate job. Yes, I liked it. Like I was feeling like I was getting ahead. I was pushing myself. I was learning things, whatever. But I went home and I needed that escape. I needed that passion-filled stuff. So when I got to this entrepreneur world, I can work 7 to 9 p.m., 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. and not bat an eye, like to a fault, to a destruction level, because I love it. So just being able to control your path and continue with what you like and drop the things that weren't important to you, and then have full control over where you go next, that's been a game changer for me.
I couldn't agree more. It's scary, but it sure is freeing. So
it's totally scary.
So scary. But I feel like, well, you and I also think are different animals, but I think we also operate a little bit better when we have a little bit of fear. Just based on our conversations thus far, I think we share that in common.
Right. The best way to start making more money is to not have a job.
Yeah. Get rid of your plan B and that extra income and just go for it.
Right.
Burn the chips. This is
not advice, but it helps.
I promise too, if you're listening to this, there will be the tactical part of like, here's how you plan and here's how you don't, but a little bit of fear is great. Okay. So next question. What do you think is the most underrated behavior or action for an entrepreneur on a daily basis?
Ooh, underrated action. Setting a schedule every day. I'm really bad at this. If my fiance, who just walked out of the room, was in the room, he would laugh at me because he tells me to do this every single day, and I'm terrible at it. But writing down all of the things that you have to do, what are your actual priorities for the day? What is your schedule? You don't have anyone sitting over your shoulder telling you, okay, it's time to go take your lunch break. It's time to change tasks. I need this right now. It's all you. So you get into this frantic energy of, wait, but I have this, and this. And I have my phone by me too. So I can be engaging. I can be doing whatever. No, that's destructive. So taking that time to sit down and really plan out for the week, for the day, where you're headed.
Yep. Great advice. What do you think is the most overrated behavior of an entrepreneur on a daily basis, for something that's like glamorized, but actually is not that helpful?
The grind. I'm really, I say this because I'm bad at it, but I'm really against grind culture of like, do more and you will be better. I don't think that's true, especially in the corporate world. And maybe it's just that I believe that in the corporate world because it's so draining. But after those couple of experiences, like in my last job, I was working 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. I was being harassed by customers every single day. And I wasn't doing anything that I liked to do because I would get home and I would just be so drained to death. It wasn't getting me anywhere. But if I had turned that switch and said, like, the more that I do, the better this will be, I'll be okay. Like, I couldn't work more hours in the day. I couldn't do more to make that better. So I would say that, like, I'm going to get up at 5:30 a.m. Then I'm going to do yoga and meditate for an hour. Then I'm going to, like, no. Make the schedule that works for you and take it at your own pace. Everyone's most efficient phase and schedule is going to be different.
Yep. I think that's good advice too. Do you have a morning routine out of curiosity?
Generally, but I wouldn't say it's like yours.
Well,
I feel like you probably have a pretty intense, like, manifestation, affirmation, morning routine.
I'm weaving it into my day now, but I have to tell you, I'm having a hard time staying on the miracle morning train just because I just really love to sleep, but I'm working on it. I'm working on getting back because when I was doing
But that's your self-care. That's your self-care. Like, I can manifest throughout the day, but if you need that extra hour of sleep, like, that extra hour is not going to make you better if you go to your computer.
That's true. Yeah, I have no regrets about it when I do take those days. But what is the biggest mistake you've made in your business and what did you learn from it?
Oh, the first one that's coming to my brain is I had a chat with a business coach before I launched my first beta program of my course. And I was so lost at the time because I was so run down by everything that I was doing. I was, again, in that like more mindset. And he said, stop. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to go to your story and you're going to say, I gained 16K in 60 days. We're going to do a 10K challenge. I'm going to give you my exact method to do so. And you're going to see what happens. You're going to start this course and it's going to be high ticket and you're going to make a bunch of money in the next 24 hours. So I did it right then and there. And I made a bunch of money in the next 24 hours. But what I also did was I leaned on this concept of growth just for growth. And I am not about that in the slightest. I'm about creating this sustainable brand that feels like you. Again, we want this process. We want your business to light you up every single day from morning to evening. So I really regret not following, like that advice was great. Yes, I should have started the course. I'm glad that I did. But I cringe every second that it didn't feel like me.
Yes. I had the same experience this morning, actually, like listening to my gut and not going with this person that said they could help me launch this masterclass that's coming in the fall. I just intuitively knew it wasn't the right alignment and fit. And I think, honoring that is so key. It has to be natural. It has to be organic. It can't just grow for the sake of growing.
Instagram's attraction marketing at this point. If you put out a specific vibe, you are only going to get people that resonate with that vibe. Yeah. So if you put out something that doesn't feel like you, you're not going to attract your right people.
Yeah, drop the mic on that one. All right, my final question for you. This is something I'm going to ask every guest that comes on the show. What advice would you give 23-year-old Harley? Professional, personal, otherwise?
Yeah, I have multiple pieces that are coming to my brain right now. One of those things was I was so stuck in the next best thing at that point. I was like, well, I'm going on this trip in 2 months. So we got to prepare for it. We got to work out for it. We got to plan the whole thing. It's going to be the best thing ever. Or when I do X, life will be completely different. And what I was really doing was I was creating this like gold at the end of the rainbow that once you got there, now you're waiting for the next best thing to happen. And you're not fully enjoying the day-to-day. So at this point, as much as my day-to-day is busy, as much as like we have days that are hard and days that, you get frustrated and doesn't feel like you're chugging along, you enjoy the whole thing. You romanticize every bit of, I'm sitting in my kitchen and eating breakfast right now, and I'm taking the time to do that because I have my own business here. So one of those pieces of advice is making sure that you are really romanticizing the small things. You're not just relying on the big life moments to make your life worthy of something.
Such good advice. And it reminds me a lot of the concept of be, do, have instead of have, do, be. Like most people are chasing having whatever this goal is. So they'll do whatever they have to get there, and then they can be happy, fulfilled, whatever, when really it's the opposite. You got to be content and then do the things that a content person does, and then you have what that person has, right? So yeah, you just hit on that head on. I love it.
Right. And then my other piece is just to outsource. Like stop thinking that you have to do everything. You can lean on your zone of genius, and others can have a zone of genius that you don't have. That doesn't mean that they are, they're not your competition. They're not. So hand off the stuff that is not in your zone of genius and excel even further. We kind of touched on this earlier about the price of outsourcing. When it comes down to it, I can hire someone to reach out to brands and not have to deal with that ever again. Or I have my virtual assistant do that, and I've completely trained her to do that, and it's a weight off my shoulders. Or I can spend hours and hours looking for brands and reaching out to brands, and that's exhausting. So hand over the things that that are not worth your time and that bog down your creativity.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. That's out of your zone of genius. So why do it? You're worth more spending time.
You're worth more.
Yeah. I love that. So Harley, where can people find you and how can they connect with you?
Yes. So you can find me at Harley Jordan with 2 Y's and 2 N's on Instagram, as well as on TikTok for that matter. And I put out all of the tips and tricks you need to monetize your social media, to create reels, technically with editing, with transitions, as well as how to just better reach your audience and find your personal branding that fits for you. So like we talked about earlier, I have a course coming up very soon. So if you mention corporate dropout in checkout, you will get 10% off of that. But I have courses, online coaching, the works. So whatever format you feel most comfortable in, I have an option for you.
I love it. And I would highly recommend doing her one-on-one consultation of your profile too. That's how you and I got started together. And it was money well spent. And if you're doing this for a business, it would also be a write-off. That's not tax advice. Talk to your CPA, but it was a good investment. Well, Harley, thanks so much again for coming to the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to the show. If today's episode added value to your life in some way, please subscribe, leave a 5-star review, and share it with someone who needs this. I'd love to connect with you on Instagram and hear how the show has inspired you. So tag me or slide into the DMs. Find me at Corporate Dropout Official or Alacia Citro. That's ALESSIACITRO and 2 underscores. Until next time, remember that you're a badass, stay focused, stay hungry, and dare to drop out.